Hello, good evening, everyone. Hope you are doing fine. Thank you for joining online for my course. So, to the class, I have invited few people. So, there are few people joining as guests today because I thought that this is something very interesting that we'll be talking today about neural networks and deep neural networks. So, to the guests, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So, something about me. My name is Maleswar Yanugu. I did PhD in geophysics from the University of Houston. Currently living in Houston, Texas, and working for an oil and gas company as an associate director in data analytics. So I also serve as a visiting geoscientist or a guest lecturer for few universities. I visited universities like Stanford University, University of New Orleans, University of Tulsa, Houston. In my recent trip to India, I went to IIT Bombay as well. Usually I go there and offer about an hour of guest lectures to the students and the professors on what is going on in the oil and gas industry, especially on the applications of AI for oil and gas. And I also serve as a short course instructor for oil and gas industry. So I usually offer short courses to the professionals in the industry. And I have been into AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning for the past few years. So for those of you who want to know what is the job demand currently for data science or data scientists, here you can see according to Glassdoor. So these are the different positions and these are the skills that are required. And especially Python is one of the important key skill that the recruiters or the companies are looking for. And recent studies say like data scientist is like one of the sexiest job of 21st century as per Harvard Business Review. And there are many opportunities right now there, but unfortunately there are not many professionals or people with data science skills. And as you might aware, actually there are no degrees in data science as of now, especially recently only MIT has announced that they are going to start a dedicated AI college, but it's going to take another couple of years to start the classes. So they are spending like, they put almost $1 billion apart to start an AI college, especially for AI. And also in India, recently only, IIT Hyderabad, they announced they are going to start classes or degrees on AI, especially for bachelor's and master's degrees. So usually still, if you look at how the educational system is there, so basically people who are graduating from computer science, so they are doing some specializations in data science or AI related courses. On the bottom right, you will see this plot generated from Indeed by Bloomberg. So according to Indeed, the number of jobs that are being posted and the number of jobs that are being like searched on Indeed. So it has been increasing ever since for the last few years, you can say around 2014 to 15. So there is a lot of demand for data scientists right now, and we will see it for next few years as well. So what is the difference between conventional computing, the way we know as a software or computer, anything, versus artificial intelligence? So what is the fundamental difference there? As we know, as you can see here, what's the conventional computing? Usually you take some input data, and being a software programmer, we write some logic. Then once you provide the input data, the computer runs that input data through the program or the logic, and it produces the output or results. But what is AI? So what is going on there is basically you usually provide both the input and output data. Then machine tries to find out the logic on its own. Then it tries to predict the outcome. So the fundamental difference between conventional and artificial intelligence is, in the conventional, you write the program, but in AI, the machine or the computer finds the logic and it tries to understand the relationship among input and output data that we are providing. And whenever you are providing new data or input data that was never provided to the computer, so it can able to predict it. So that is the difference between conventional computing and AI. So actually when this started about AI or machine learning or deep learning, AI means actually let the machines behave or think similar to us. That is what we are calling it as artificial intelligence. So let the machines behave as humans. We are human intelligence. Machines will be, or machines are artificial intelligence. It started around 1950s. So the goal is the machines should be behaving similar to us. The way we think, the tasks we do, the actions that we do. So that is the main goal, to make machines as humans. In order to achieve this goal, what we have been doing is we are actually providing the data so that the machines can learn. So that's why machines can learn. We are calling it as machine learning. So machines learn from the data that we are providing. So we are teaching the machines. When the task is very complex or complicated, then the machine has to do a lot of tasks at the same time instantaneously. That's what is deep learning. You might have heard about neural networks that have been there for last 4 or 5 decades, but deep learning has been there only for the last few years. If you look at any self-driving car or whatever we are trying to achieve, like the way we do, that is actually deep learning or more complex things, which is, we call it as deep neural networks. That's what we are going to talk more about today. So what's the different branches of AI? Basically, AI means to make the machines to think like us, but a part of it how we achieve is through machine learning, by providing the data so that the machines can learn from the data. So what are the different types of machine learning there? There are different types, which are supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Yesterday we discussed about supervised and unsupervised learning. There are like regression or classification types. There are also unsupervised, which is basically we don't provide any output information to the machines. They have to learn themselves. So today we will be talking about neural networks, the deep neural networks, as well as reinforcement learning. So what is supervised learning? So in supervised learning, we are providing both the input data and output data so that the machine tries to learn the relationships among input and output data. So there are the different types of methods, especially we look at classification, like the way our email works, Gmail or Yahoo. So whenever we are receiving any emails based on the subject line, based on keywords within the text or body of the email, the algorithm can itself classify any particular input email as spam or not spam. This is basically like yes or no, good or bad. That's why it is like a classification algorithm. Regression means like if you have any data like housing prices, and if you want to predict how much will be the price cost of a house after 6 months or 1 year. So what we do, this is basically we have been doing on Excel sheets, like you have X and Y data and we plot it like 2D plot and we find the patterns. Then you build a regression line like an equation. Then you try to predict X from Y or Y from X. That is basic what we have been doing in Excel sheets. But as you have more and more variables, like if you have columns like 10 or 12, then we cannot make any plots or we cannot visualize ourselves. Then machines can help us to find the patterns or relationship among all those columns. And we also looked at unsupervised learning, which means we are providing only the data. We don't know what is the output. Neither us or nor the machines know anything about the output, what that data is talking about. So in that case, we looked at three different types of unsupervised learning. One is clustering, another one is dimensionality reduction, and another one is association. So in clustering, the computer or the machine tries to group the data points based on some features. Either it may be color, it may be shape, or anything, any attributes or features. It doesn't know what it is, but it tries to group the items together. In dimensionality reduction, whenever you have more than 3-dimensional data, let us suppose you have 12 variables, 12 columns of data. And what machine tries to understand is it looks all the data patterns in 12 dimensions. Then if it could not able to find any meaningful relationships, then what it does is it tries to reduce the dimensionality. The best example is PCA. We call it as principal component analysis. From there, it tries to understand the relationships from larger dimension to lower dimension. And also we looked at another type of unsupervised learning, which is association, where especially retail sector is using. Especially when you visit any grocery store like Target or Walmart. So based on different types of items customers are buying, they're trying to find out what is the relationship among those buying items. For example, what is the most likely whenever a customer is buying like bread and egg, what is the most likely that the customer will also buy milk? So this is something they are working on, and they are making a lot of business out of this type of algorithms. So today we will be talking about more and more about neural networks. This is what we'll be covering today. Why we need to go for neural networks and what are the different types of neural networks, and we will also be learning about reinforcement learning. So why we need neural networks? Let us suppose I have two variables like x1 and x2, and I have few features like here circles and crosses. So if I want to find a relationship between these two different variables, how we can do that? This is one type of like a linear relationship, which is like a classification. But if I make something like this, I will be missing these points. They are falling under circles. And if you look at here, these circles are falling under the crosses. So actually this linear relationship or regression cannot be able to distinguish these two points here. So what is the best way? I can just tweak it, or I can make little nonlinear type as well. But the challenge here is if I make something like this dashed line, which is actually separating between these 2 points or features, it's good. But the complexity is how do we solve that, or how do we write an equation? It's basically like a Taylor series, very, very complex. So every point is related to something between x1 and x2. Very complicated, very computing power, very intensive computing power and memory. So that is only like structured. Whenever you have like x, y, or c, any structured data in a tabular format. What if we have any unstructured data like images or pictures or videos? So for example, here we have like a car picture, which is black and white picture. We know this is a car and this is what we are looking. But how the computer looks at a picture is, it looks like this. A small portion of it looks like in terms of pixel values. So this is what it looks. It looks at the pixels. Now it became like a more structured data. Then in terms of computer vision, for example, we want to train the machines by providing, okay, this is car. All these pictures are related to cars. So I'm providing input data and I'm assigning it as a car. And I'm also providing different other types of pictures. I'm telling or labeling the computer as it is not a car. So there are, computer knows only two things, cars and no car. Whenever I provide a new picture that I never provided, then it has to predict this as car or not a car. So how it is learning that, or how complexity is that? So the way we look at it here, for example, so whenever it is looking a small portion, it is looking at in terms of like a matrix. So it does all the mathematical calculations, like we know in linear algebra, transpose, inverses, even all these algorithms, they do find out different types. They will like 6 by 6 matrix, they do all the calculations. Because what exactly computer is doing here is, it is trying to memorize how a particular feature in that particular image looks like in terms of a matrix calculations. So that's how the algorithms work. And that's how whenever we are providing different pictures of cars, every part of it, it does all the matrix calculations. That's how it memorizes it. And whenever we are providing a new picture, based on those matrix calculations, it tries to predict that as a car. So how it is doing that is, again, that pixels are like, it may be 20 by 20 columns and rows, it's very complicated. Even if we have only black and white picture, it actually generates like 2500 pixels. And if we have colored picture, it generates around 7500 pixels. So just imagine the computer has to make this many pixels of matrices and it has to calculate it. So that's the beauty in neural networks. And what it does, whenever it has all those pixels, so it, based on small portions, it actually categorizes them as whatever we are labeling as cars, those will be placed somewhere here. Whatever not cars, those will be placed here, like you see on the right hand side. So all these crosses are cars, non-crosses are not cars. So that's how the computer does all the computations, and that's how it builds one relationship, and that's how it memorizes. So whenever we are providing any new picture of a car, then it looks based on its computations where those pixels are falling, whether this side or that side. From that, it tries to predict what it is exactly. So when the computation is very complex, when we are dealing with more unstructured data, not in the tabular forms, then we are introducing the neural networks, because conventional ways of machine learning, like supervised or unsupervised, they work more efficiently on the structured data. But the machines have to turn the unstructured data into structured data. Again, they will be doing one of those machine learning approaches, either supervised or unsupervised, but they have to convert that data, which involves a lot of mathematical computations. So how we got into neural networks? Again, neural networks, it came from our brain itself, which is very, very complex. Here is like a brief summary of our human brain. As we know, there are like 10,000 different types of neurons. And our brain contains around 100 billion neurons. So as of now, there are more than the galaxies or the stars within our universe, known universe. You can just imagine how many neurons are there in our brain. And at every point of time, even we are speaking, talking, eating, sleeping, at every point, actually, every neuron communicates with a few thousands or even millions of other neurons within our brain. And how it communicates is basically, this is each neuron in our brain. How it does is it usually takes some input data and it processes it and it outputs to the next neuron. Then what happens? This is one neuron, takes it, processes it, and sends it to the another neuron. So this is how all these neurons are connected. Even our medical research people, still they're trying to figure it out, how these neurons will communicate based on whatever actions we are doing, whatever we are thinking, still we don't know. That is really, really the complex organ in our body. So we brought the principle of how our brain works. So that's how we are building the artificial neuron from our human brain neuron. So how we are trying to do is the fundamental weapon that we have is mathematics. So we are using mathematical operations. It may be statistics, it may be probability, it may be linear algebra. So what we are doing, we have the input data, like we have seen all those matrices from an image to like a number of matrices. It process. So this is basically like neuron and it outputs. Again, this output will become input to another neuron. So we are artificially building the neurons. That's how we call it as neural network. Initially, we used to call it as artificial neural networks, ANN. But nowadays, we are simply calling it as neural networks. So what are the different types of neural networks? Basically, based on the complexity of the problem, we have different types of neural networks. So in neural networks, you might have heard or you might have already known about this. Whatever input data you are providing, usually it passes through different neurons, artificial neurons, and they produce one output. And this is only like a simple neural network. That means here we have a layer or network of single layered neurons. We call it as hidden layer. So when you have some input data, hidden layers of neurons, only single, and output data. But if the problem is complex, then as the problem has more and more complex, it will actually increase the number of hidden layers. Input, there will be a lot of hidden layers of neurons and it produces the output data. So especially in that cars example, you are providing input data and you are also saying that what is the output initially while training a neural network. What is that we are saying? We are labeling each image as either a car or not a car. So we are providing input, output labeling as well. But at that time, what the machine is doing, it is processing, it is doing all the matrix calculations and it processes further and it memorizes. So whenever you are showing a new picture of a car that was never provided during the training, then it should be able to predict that as a car or not a car. So what is the machine doing here? from the input and output labels, it is trying to figure it out itself. We don't have much control on this. So it finds out, it does all the mathematical calculations, it memorizes. And whenever you are providing new input data, it tries to predict it, whatever it is. Here is an example. So here we have some data points, and whenever we are providing X and Y, what it is trying to do is it is trying to classify or differentiate these data points. Here we have blue and red. So each neuron is trying to find out some relationship. How can I separate blue dots with red dots? This is one neuron is working like this, another neuron is working like this, another one is working like this. And finally, this is what it produces, like differentiation or classification between blue and red. Actually, this is bit simpler one. So since the problem is simpler one, here you see only one hidden layer. So this is what we call it as a simple neural network. What if you have something very complex points, like here you see reds and blues, so each neuron has to produce something like this. In this, it is working mostly like linear way of separating the points. Here it is working more like non-linear way, but finally all this being processed and produces very good separation between blue and red points. Since the challenge is complicated, so you see the number of hidden layers also increased to find out the relationship. So again, this is like a classification, supervised classification problem, but as you can see here, all these neural networks, either it can be supervised or unsupervised or reinforcement learning as well. You might have seen this one. We are already using this type of application. For example, if you have any number, we call it as like optical character recognition. So let me bring that example. Nowadays, we are depositing checks, isn't it? Either through our mobile bank app or through ATM. So whenever you're depositing a check, we write with different styles. So how the machine still can able to figure it out to whom the check is written or what is the amount that is being written. So it's basically, it looks at different pixels and it does all the calculations, and finally it finds out or predicts what exactly is written. We call it as optical character recognition, which is a deep neural network application. And whenever we are training, actually, we provide different images and we assign what it is, whether that is a cat, dog, car, or apple. So based on that complexity, what the machines do is basically they do all the calculations through artificial neural networks and they memorizes. Whenever you are providing hundreds or thousands of pictures of cat, it knows that is a cat. It is being trained. So when you provide a new picture of a cat that was not provided, no label is provided, and this type of picture or this picture was never used during the training, so still the computer can able to predict it as a cat. So this is what we'll see in the next example. So this type of technology or algorithms, that's what Facebook or Instagram are using, because we are uploading dozens of pictures of ourselves, for example, and we are initially, whenever we are uploading, we are saying that this is me through our profile. So that's how the Facebook is training. Okay, whenever you see like hundreds of pictures of this guy, even though with friends or family, but it tries to recognize someone is there, very common in those pictures. And when you upload a new picture, you might have observed it tries to tag someone from the pictures. That picture was never uploaded before. You never provided the information, but still Facebook knows and it attempts you to, like, do you want to tag this person, or I can recognize this person from somewhere. That's how these applications of this technology is evolving. Like you see here, we are providing that much of data. Our family members are providing different data sets like pictures, and what they're trying to do is they're training their neural network models, and some part of neurons remember something like this from those pictures. Some part initially they remember something very blurred, somewhere they remember like cat, a part of cat, but finally they can predict whenever you are uploading a new picture. So this is how the deep neural networks work, or especially how the applications like Facebook or others are using. This is another example from Facebook. So whenever we are uploading any of those pictures, so they have been training their machine learning models on millions of pictures per day. What they're doing is basically, whenever we are uploading a picture, initially they are tagging. There is a person, this is a bicycle, there is a road, this is a building. So they are training the machines on millions of pictures. Then machines could able to understand whenever they are looking at the pictures, what is what. Then whenever you upload a new picture that was never provided to Facebook before, but still, since they have a model that is being built on millions of pictures from millions of users, whenever you are uploading a new picture like this, so it knows, it tries to predict from millions of pictures, it understands, and it tries to predict, like, there is 97% of chances that there is a person in this picture, and 2% of chances it may be a traffic light, but the accuracy in prediction will be much higher. So that's why people say that the data is the fuel for machine learning algorithms or machine learning models. And what are the different types of neural networks? We'll be talking more about that. One of those types is convolutional neural network. So basically, the computers try to do all types of machine learning or matrix calculations. So whenever you have a matrix by 21 by 21, so it does different types of matrix calculations. It does something similar to here. This is a photo which is unstructured. So it takes only small portion of it and it does some matrix calculations here. And it does the same way. It takes a small portion here. It does all the different types of calculations. And at the same time, the machine itself changes the rows to columns. It does like a transpose, and then again it finds different kinds of calculations. Why it is doing that is, remember, this is only the input data that we are providing, but it tries to predict whenever you are providing a new input image. So that's why it wants to understand all different types of calculations from that image, because whenever you want to test it, actually you are providing a new data that it has never seen. But the challenge for machine is it has to predict whether that is a person or a bird. That's why it does all these computations itself. And companies like Facebook, again, they are using convolutional neural networks for facial recognition, and it does all the computations, and that's how Facebook is trying to tag the people based on facial recognition, which actually has CNN, convolutional neural network background. And also recent advances actually helping Facebook or Instagram to actually identify or detect the mood based on the pictures, whether the people are happy, angry, or sad. Why they are working on this is they want to predict or stop any kind of suicides or anything extreme activities based on the types of pictures that people are uploading. So that's very important, because As you know, whenever we are uploading, the machine has to predict it based on our picture. And there is another type of neural network, which is very deep neural network, is RNN, we call recurrent neural network. So what happens in this type of neural network is you always have input data, you provide the output. To better understand the relationship between input and output, as we have seen so far, usually everything calculations goes only forward. Input to hidden layer 1, hidden layer 1 to 2, 3, 4, finally to output. But here in this RNN, the neurons tries to communicate themselves like vertically. So in order to adjust all those features, they actually talk themselves. So that's why they call it as a recurrent neural network. Where are the applications? You might have seen this, especially on Google or voice recorders or Alexa. You know, whenever we are speaking something or typing something in a different language, what it does initially is it tries to convert to English or any other language that we want. But this may not be more grammatically correct. Then what it does, it has to correct it. So that's where like recurrent neural networks, they communicate each other and try to correct it. So if you ask the same Chinese to English translation, any Chinese expert, this is what they will produce, something about their prime minister of China and Canada. But this is what an automated machine will produce, something like this, which is very similar to a human interpreter. So during the translations, actual people or the companies are using RNN, recurrent neural networks. It's the same way for voice recognition. Whenever you're traveling either to Europe or South America, where people speak only in their native languages, then there are apps. So if you want to ask any address, they may be probably speaking only Portuguese or only Spanish. So once you have that app, the app listens to whatever they are speaking and instantaneously it translates and tells you in English. So actually, excuse me, the mechanism behind such type of text or voice recognition or voice translation is RNN, recurrent neural networks. And another advantage is, for example, whenever you are uploading any pictures like this, it does all the computations. And what RNN does is it tries to interpret as well, like we do. So whenever we see this picture, what do we think in our mind? Oh, there is a bird flying above a lake or pool of water, isn't it? So that's what RNN interprets itself and produces in words, like a bird flying over a body of water. So you see how far the machines are coming. Based on the picture, they can interpret as well. And there is another type of neural networks, we call it as generative adversarial networks, in simplest form as GANs. So in GANs, what is going on is basically whenever you have something data, but if it has some missing data, what the algorithms are trying to do is they try to create fake images and they try to fill the gaps. Or if you provide real data, they're trying to understand and they try to mimic any distribution of the data. Let us see examples. For example, here you have different people, like A, these are the people, and B, there are 3 people. And if you look at these people who are like 5 by 3, these people are never existent. They are not real. All are fake. But these people have been created from the combination of these people, whatever you have, either through A or through B. So GANs are helping to fake the things out. Especially there are many people who are using these GANs to create fake images. Sometimes you see online, even fake videos as well. Like here, I would advise you to watch this video from Obama on YouTube. It looks like he was talking something, but he never spoke. So the technology or the algorithm behind is basically GANs, generative adversarial networks. And you can also use actually or test the computer vision, the types of neural networks that we have available today from the Google Cloud. This is the address, like you can use cloud.google.com vision. So this is actually my son in front of a school. So just you can post this. The computer can actually interpret the data just based on the picture. So it can look at what are the features here. It can interpret where this guy is standing up. For example, when I just gave this picture, on the right hand side, you see how the computer interpreted the data. For example, it says it looks like a property, like 90% chances. Looks like a public place. Yes, it's in front of a high school. And if you look at, these are the chances of its interpretation. And if you look here, not only it is interpreting, actually it is interpreting what are the keywords or signs within that picture. So just you see how the machines are coming nowadays. They can not only look at the images, they can interpret, they can say what it is. So it's more like more and more automation. And self-driving cars, that's where we have been working a lot. Self-driving cars, or as Amazon is working on automated delivery of the goods, or this is how a self-driving car look at the people and tries to understand. So what is the technology, or how a self-driving car can be achievable is, think about us, how we are trying to drive. Basically, when we are driving, we do a lot of actions, isn't it? We keep an eye on the road, we keep an eye on the sides, back side, through mirrors, and our legs are busy, our hands are busy on the steering. So the computers also has to mimic us whatever we are doing. So that is actually very, very complex thing, isn't it? So the more complexity the problem, the more deeper the computers are, deeper neural networks has to be built. Like they have to take decisions instantaneously. They have to look, take, drive front, back, left, right. So it's very complex. So like here, it has to look through the cameras and it has to process that information. It has to understand and take decisions instantaneously. It's the same way for automated deliveries as well. So there are different types of neural networks, especially deep neural networks, that are being involved in self-driving cars. So there are still a lot of challenges, and our goal is to like 100% safety and 100% accident free. So the way companies like Uber or Tesla are trying to do is they are training the algorithms, especially deep neural networks, either convolutional or recurrent or supervised or unsupervised, so that they can drive themselves. And recently, you might have heard about this news, which is basically our scientists have discovered or made first ever image of a black hole. This is the first ever image that we captured. And the right hand side, her name is Dr. Katie Bowman. She was a graduate student at MIT, and now she is an assistant professor at California Institute of Technology. She and many other scientists around the world have gone through like millions of pictures from telescopes like a Hubble telescope. But we don't know how a black hole look like except watching in movies like Interstellar. So what they did, they used like computer algorithms inbuilt with deep neural networks, and they compared all those telescopic data with the images that are available either from Facebook or whatever we are taking, So that's how they build very complicated neural networks algorithms to actually fine tune or to capture the first image of a black hole. And she actually gave a TEDx talk, which is available on YouTube, which is around 12 minutes. I strongly encourage you to listen to her or watch to her how she and her team could able to do or achieve this great work. So that's what we have been talking about, the neural networks. Let us see what is reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning basically is we provide very limited data to the machines. The machines have to learn themselves. So it's like a puzzle. If the machine could able to predict it or achieve or reach to the target, then we provide the reward. So then machine knows that, okay, I did a good job. If we didn't did a good job in predicting a good action, then it will not be rewarded. So that's a kind of machine learning we have been working on developing recently. Basically, the machine tries to learn to react to any type of environment. If it gets successful, it will be rewarded, or not successful, it won't be rewarded. Let us see an example. Here on the left hand side, like this is an agent, let us suppose an algorithm. So there are two cases, fire and water. If it goes to the fire, then it will not be rewarded. If it goes to the water, it took a good decision. So it learns by itself what is the good way or bad way. And where this was actually applied is basically on the right hand side. If you look at here, like there is a game, Go game. I'm not sure anyone of you played that. So Google DeepMind, they developed a AI related Go game. And recently, I think a couple of years back, actually this machine related Google AI, which is computer, played against the world champion and it defeated. It's the same way with chess as well. I think computer defeated world champion Kasparov a few years back because it knows what is the next step it wants to make. So the way how Google trained this machine is whenever it is taking a good step, it uses it to get some reward points. Then it knows, okay, I did a good job. Whenever it was not doing, it was not rewarded. So that's what we call reinforcement learning. So the algorithm or the machine will learn on or by itself. It is something very similar like if we went on a spaceship and we went to somewhere in a different galaxy and we don't know anything about that galaxy or those planets or what is there, so very similar to us. If we went to somewhere in the galaxy, whatever we don't know is this similar way. The machine also doesn't know anything about it. So remember this, how this is different reinforcement learning. Here we are not providing no input data, no output data. The machine has to learn itself. So this is what we covered today. Yesterday we covered unsupervised and unsupervised. Today we covered about neural networks and deep neural networks, especially CNN, convolutional neural networks, recurrent neural networks, and generative adversarial neural networks. And also we looked at the reinforcement learning. So I think that's it, class and guys. So tomorrow we will be talking about applications of AI, especially we will see how different industries like medical, space, retail, oil and gas, every industry is using all these types of machine learning algorithms to reduce the uncertainty related to their challenges or whatever. So we'll be looking at more and more applications tomorrow. I think that's it. And from the audience or the guests, if you have any questions, you are free to ask me. For the class attendees as well, if you have any questions, please, we have a few minutes. So you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask me anything. Okay. So class, we will meet again tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.